right, so buckle up because today we're diving into a story. A company, really, that started as, well, a tiny shop, but somehow managed to become like a global powerhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, you see their logo like everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Their drinks are like practically a cultural phenomenon.
Right.
And they've even, get this, they've even been to space.
Wow.
But, but there's a darker side to this Jama Giant, right? A story filled with, controversies
Yeah.
and some seriously questionable decisions. So,
Yeah.
think you know coffee.
Yeah.
Think again. Welcome to the Legacy of Giants podcast series.
It's really fascinating how a brand can achieve such widespread recognition, but also face so much criticism. It makes you wonder how they manage to stay afloat,
Right.
against all the storms.
So, ready to unveil the mystery company?
Yeah.
I bet you already have a pretty good idea.
Starbucks.
Starbucks.
Right.
It's hard to imagine a world without their green siren
Everywhere.
staring back at us from like every street corner.
Every corner.
But their journey to global domination, I think, is more complicated than you might think.
Way more complicated. So let's rewind all the way back to 1971. Okay. Instead of like the sleek modern cafes we see today, picture like a humble little shop nestled in Seattle's Pike Place Market, selling, wait for it, coffee beans.
Yes, believe it or not.
Right.
Starbucks wasn't always about, caramel macchiatos and pumpkin spice lattes.
No.
They started as a simple coffee bean retailer. And here's a fun fact for you. They got their name from the first mate in Moby Dick.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
A literary connection, who knew?
Right.
You'd think with a name like that, they would have at least started with like a nautical theme, maybe mermaid shake pastries or something.
Right. But the real turning point
came in 1987 when Howard Schultz stepped onto the scene. He bought Starbucks and, let's be honest, completely revolutionized the coffee experience.
He did.
He shifted the focus to espresso drinks, which at the time were still a pretty novel concept in America.
And that's when things really took off.
Yeah.
Starbucks started popping up, like you said, on every corner.
Yep.
And by 1992, they went public.
Yeah.
Talk about a meteoric rise.
It is.
But was growing that fast like a good thing?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Rapid expansion can be a double-edged sword.
I see.
On the one hand, it allows a company to establish a strong market presence and capture a large share of the market. But on the other hand, it can lead to issues with quality control, inconsistency, and a disconnect between the brand's core values and its actual practices.
Right. Interesting. And they definitely didn't slow down after going public. Starbucks went from selling just coffee beans to offering like a whole galaxy of products.
Right.
I mean, frappuccinos?
Yeah.
Those things are practically a cultural institution in themselves.
Oh, for sure.
And then there are the refreshers, the teas, pastries, and even alcoholic drinks in some locations.
Exactly. And what's really intriguing is how their product line reflects broader shifts in consumer preferences.
Okay.
Think about it. They've incorporated non-dairy milk options, sugar-free syrups, even skinny drinks.
Yeah.
It shows they're paying attention to evolving trends and trying to cater to a wider range of tastes and dietary needs.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole instant coffee thing with their VIA packets. Was that like a smart move or a betrayal of their roots?
Right. I mean, it definitely made their coffee more accessible.
Yeah.
But did it dilute the brand's image? It's like they're trying to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can backfire. But let's zoom out for a second and talk about their global expansion, because that's where things get really wild. We're talking over 36,000 stores in 83 countries. How did they even manage to pull that off?
Their expansion strategy is fascinating. They had to adapt to different cultures, tastes, and even political landscapes. Take Japan, for instance. They targeted a specific demographic called New Japan, young urban consumers who were drawn to Western brands and trends.
And then there's the whole China saga.
Yeah.
Remember the controversy surrounding the Starbucks in the Forbidden City?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a clash of cultures.
Oh, yeah. That was a major PR blunder. It highlighted the importance of, cultural sensitivity and
Yeah.
the challenges of reconciling a global brand identity with local values.
Yeah.
They eventually closed that store,
They did.
realizing that sometimes even the biggest giants have to take a step back.
Yeah, and who can forget their near total failure in Australia?
Yeah.
They basically stormed in with their Americanized approach
Yeah.
and completely misjudged the coffee culture down under.
Australians are serious about their coffee.
They are.
And they weren't buying into the Starbucks formula. It's a classic case of, like, one size doesn't fit all when it comes to global expansion.
Totally, but here's the thing. They eventually managed to make a comeback in Australia.
They did?
Though under new ownership
Right.
and with a revised strategy that was more in tune with local tastes. It seems like they've learned a thing or two about adaptation over the years.
Absolutely. And this brings us to a crucial aspect
Yeah.
of Starbucks' identity.
Okay.
Their corporate culture and leadership.
Yeah.
All these shifts, these adaptations, they all stem from the top. We've seen quite a few CEOs come and go.
We have.
From Schultz to Johnson to Rassim Han and now Brian Niccol. What do you make of that constant turnover?
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this because it seems like they've been on a bit of a CEO merry-go-round lately. Does that signal a lack of stability?
Yeah.
Or is it just a sign of the times, a reflection of how quickly the business world is changing?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
Were they struggling to find a leader who can navigate the complexities of a global brand in a rapidly evolving market? Or is this just part of their natural evolution as a company?
And let's not forget that Starbucks is largely owned by institutional investors. Does that influence their long-term vision?
It might.
Are they more focused on like quarterly profits than on the company's original mission and values?
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
Shareholder pressure can definitely influence a company's priorities.
Yeah.
It's a constant balancing act between pleasing investors and staying true to the brand's core identity.
And speaking of identity, their logo has undergone some pretty dramatic transformations over the years. I mean, that original topless mermaid was, well, let's just say it wouldn't fly in today's world.
Right. They've definitely streamlined and modernized their image. Moving away from the more provocative imagery of the past, it makes you wonder if they're trying to shed their old skin, so to speak,
Right.
while still holding on to that mythical allure. But beyond branding and business strategies, there's another critical dimension we need to consider, their environmental and social impact. And let's be real, Starbucks has had its fair share of controversies in this department.
Oh, for sure. Remember the whole dipper well debacle?
Yeah.
Where they were constantly running water to rinse utensils, wasting a ton of water,
Yeah.
and sparking a wave of criticism.
Yes, that was a major misstep.
It was.
And there were also concerns about the low percentage of recycled materials in their cups.
Yeah.
It seemed like they were prioritizing convenience and profit over environmental responsibility.
But to be fair, they have made some efforts to improve. They've been pushing for reusable cups, they banned plastic straws,
Yeah.
and they've ramped up their food bank donations.
They have, but the question remains, are these genuine attempts to make a positive impact?
Yeah.
Or are they just clever PR moves to appease critics and boost their image? Are they truly committed to sustainability?
Yeah.
Or are they just trying to look good?
I think that's the crux of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are they walking the walk or just talking the talk? And then there are the racial profiling incidents,
Right.
like that one in Philadelphia where 2 black men were arrested
Oh, yeah.
for simply waiting for a friend.
I remember that.
That sparked national outrage
It did.
and forced Starbucks to confront some hard truths about systemic bias within their organization.
Absolutely. Those incidents raised some serious questions about implicit bias, corporate responsibility,
Yeah.
and the role of social media in holding companies accountable.
Yeah.
It was a wake-up call,
It was.
not just for Starbucks,
Right.
but for many other businesses as well.
And it highlighted the power of consumer activism. The idea that our choices, where we spend our money, can actually influence corporate behavior. It's like they say,
Yeah.
vote with your wallet.
Yeah.
But let's move on to another hot topic.
Okay.
Unionization efforts and strikes.
Ah, yes, the battle between labor and management.
Right.
A tale as old as time itself. It raises questions
Yeah.
about worker satisfaction, fair wages,
Right.
and the balance of power between corporations and their employees.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers. And speaking of complex issues,
Yeah.
who could forget the Race Together campaign?
Oh, right.
I think their intentions were good,
Yeah.
but the execution was, well, let's just say it didn't go as planned.
Right. It was a classic example of a well-intentioned initiative backfiring spectacularly. It demonstrates the challenges of addressing complex social issues, especially when you're a massive corporation trying to navigate a sensitive and polarized landscape. It's not enough to simply acknowledge the issue. You need to have a thoughtful, nuanced approach that involves listening to diverse perspectives and understanding the complexities involved.
And in a world where everyone has an opinion and a platform to share it, companies are under constant scrutiny. One wrong move, one misstep, and it can go viral in an instant.
It's a high-wire act for sure.
It is?
But then more recently, there were the LGBTQ plus pride decoration controversies and even strikes over this.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard about that.
It didn't get as much attention as some of the other controversies.
Okay.
But it did raise questions about corporate hypocrisy and the need for companies to align their actions with their stated values.
It's almost like they're trying to appeal to everyone, but in doing so, they end up alienating some of their core supporters. It's a delicate balancing act.
Absolutely. And then there's another controversy that highlights the complexities of corporate stances on global issues. The Israel-Hamas war boycott. Starbucks is facing a lawsuit over a social media post by Starbucks Workers United expressing solidarity with Palestine. It's a messy situation with no easy answers.
Wow, this is getting really interesting.
It really is. This lawsuit raises a whole host of questions about freedom of speech, corporate responsibility, and the boundaries between personal opinions and corporate stances. It also highlights the potential for boycotts and backlash based on political positions. It's a minefield, to say the least.
So we've got this company with incredible global reach.
Yeah.
A product that's practically a cultural staple. But they're constantly embroiled in controversies, struggling to balance their corporate interests with their social responsibilities. Like they're trying to juggle chainsaws while walking a tightrope.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
It is.
They're a symbol of American capitalism, of global expansion, of the power of branding. But at the same time, they're a lightning rod for criticism.
Yeah.
A case study in the challenges of navigating a complex and ever-changing world.
So where do we go from here?
Oh, that's where things get even more interesting.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
You're killing me with the suspense.
I know, right?
We'll have to pick this up later.
Okay.
But don't worry, we'll be back soon to delve even deeper into the legacy of this Java giant.
For sure.
Okay. All right. I won't leave you hanging any longer.
Okay.
What we've uncovered so far
Yeah.
is this company, well, it's a bit of an enigma.
Right.
On one hand, Starbucks has achieved like phenomenal success, becoming a global, icon.
Sure.
But on the other hand,
Right.
they seem to be perpetually entangled in some kind of controversy.
Yeah, it's like they're constantly tripping over their own giant feet.
Right. But where does that leave us, like, in understanding their legacy? Are they a force for good?
Yeah.
Or just another corporate giant prioritizing profit over everything else?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's not an easy one to answer. I think it's crucial to remember that Starbucks' story isn't over yet. How they navigate these challenges, how they respond to criticism, and how they evolve their business practices will ultimately shape their legacy in the years to come.
It's like they're at a crossroads. They can either keep stumbling on the same path, or they can take a bold step in a new direction, really commit to their values, and become a leader in ethical and sustainable business practices.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the question of leadership. We've seen a revolving door of CEOs at Starbucks.
Right.
Does that signal a lack of direction, or is it simply a reflection of the challenges of leading a company of this size in such a dynamic industry?
I mean, it can't be easy to steer a ship as massive as Starbucks. But it does make you wonder if they're struggling to find a captain who can chart a course through all these stormy seas.
Perhaps. Or maybe they're just trying to find the right leader for the right time, someone who can adapt to the ever-changing landscape of consumer expectations and global challenges.
And speaking of global challenges, let's not forget the impact of social media.
Oh, yeah.
It's given consumers a megaphone, And companies like Starbucks are constantly under the microscope.
Yeah.
Any misstep,
Yeah.
any perceived injustice can go viral in an instant and spark a global outcry.
It's a whole new level of accountability.
Right.
Companies can no longer afford to ignore public opinion or try to sweep issues under the rug. They have to be proactive, transparent, and responsive to concerns, or they risk facing the wrath of a very vocal and connected consumer base.
It's almost like they're walking a tightrope
Yeah.
between their own interests and the demands of an increasingly empowered public. So, with all this in mind, how should we, like as consumers, use Starbucks?
I think it's important to be informed consumers. We should be aware of the company's history, both the good and the bad. We should be critical of their practices and hold them accountable for their missteps. But we should also acknowledge their efforts to improve and recognize that no company is perfect.
It's about making conscious choices, right?
Yeah.
Supporting companies that align with our values and using our purchasing power to encourage positive change.
Absolutely. And it's also about understanding that there will always be trade-offs, compromises, and areas where even the most well-intentioned companies can do better.
It's not about expecting perfection, but about recognizing that even giants can stumble, and that even the most iconic brands are constantly evolving. Our choices as consumers can influence that evolution.
I love that perspective. It's not a black and white issue. It's about understanding the complexities and nuances of a company like Starbucks, and then making our own informed decisions.
Okay, so we've talked about their leadership changes, their global expansion, their environmental and social controversies.
Right.
But what about like their actual product?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. Starbucks coffee isn't exactly known for its, well, let's just say like boldness of flavor.
That's an interesting point. Their coffee is often criticized for being like overly roasted, lacking the nuanced flavors of some specialty coffee shops.
Yeah.
But remember, they're catering to a mass audience, appealing to a broader palate.
Right. It's like the McDonald's of coffee.
Yeah.
Consistent, predictable, and available everywhere. But it's not exactly winning any awards for its complexity or originality.
But here's the thing. They've also shown a willingness to innovate, to experiment with new flavors and trends. Think about the Frappuccino, for example. It's a far cry from a traditional cup of coffee, but it's become a cultural phenomenon in itself.
Yeah, it's like they've created a whole new category of coffee-adjacent beverages.
Yeah.
And they've also jumped on the health-conscious bandwagon, offering sugar-free syrups, non-dairy milk options, and even those skinny drinks.
It's a balancing act. They're trying to appeal to a wide range of consumers, from the die-hard coffee purists to the casual coffee drinkers who are more interested in a sweet treat than a complex caffeine experience.
And let's not forget their insane selection of merchandise. Mugs, tumblers, travel cups, you name it, they've got it. It's like they've created a whole lifestyle brand around coffee.
It's brilliant, really. They've managed to create a sense of community,
a
shared experience around their brand. You see people walking around with their Starbucks cups like it's a badge of honor.
It's like a secret society for caffeine addicts.
Maybe not so secret, but you're right. There's a certain sense of belonging that comes with being a Starbucks customer. And that's a powerful thing in today's world where people are craving connection and a sense of identity.
So they've mastered the art of branding. They've built a global empire. They're constantly innovating, and they've cultivated a loyal following. But they're also plagued by controversy and seem to be struggling to live up to their own ideals.
Yeah.
It's a complicated legacy. To say the least.
It is. And I think that complexity is what makes them so fascinating to study. They're a microcosm of the challenges facing businesses in the 21st century. They're a reflection of our own evolving values and expectations.
So what's the verdict? Is Starbucks a force for good or a symbol of corporate greed?
I don't think there's like a simple answer. It's not black and white. It's a spectrum of grays. They've made some missteps, some bad decisions, but they've also shown a willingness to learn, to adapt, and to try to do better.
It sounds like their legacy is still being written.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's up to us as consumers to decide what role we want to play in shaping that legacy.
Exactly. Our choices matter.
Right.
Where we spend our money, what we choose to support,
Yeah.
conversations we have, it all makes a difference.
Okay, so we've delved deep into the history, the controversies, the business strategies, and even the coffee itself. But we still haven't addressed the teaser from the beginning of our deep dive, the bit about Starbucks going to space.
Ah, yes. the final frontier. It's true.
Really?
Starbucks coffee has actually been to space.
Wait, seriously, how did I miss that? Tell me everything.
Well, in 1996, they developed a special instant coffee blend for NASA astronauts aboard the space shuttle. It was called Starbucks Coffee VIA Ready Brew.
Okay.
And it came in pouches that could be easily rehydrated in space.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I guess even astronauts need their caffeine fix. But it seems kind of ironic, right? This company that's so grounded in earthly controversies has managed to reach for the stars.
It does make you think maybe it's a symbol of their ambition.
Yeah.
Their relentless pursuit of growth and expansion.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just a reminder that even in the vastness of space,
Right.
we still crave the familiar comforts of home.
I like that. A reminder that even amidst the chaos and complexities of the world, a simple cup of coffee can be a source of comfort and connection. But is that enough to redeem their legacy? Are they truly a force for good, or just a company that's really good at marketing?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And as we've discussed, there are no easy answers. But I think it's safe to say that Starbucks is a company that provokes strong opinions, sparks heated debates, and forces us to confront some fundamental questions
Right.
about consumerism, corporate responsibility, and the role of business in society.
And sometimes that's all you can ask for from a company, right? To make us think, to challenge our assumptions, and to encourage us to engage in meaningful conversations.
Absolutely. It's about more than just a cup of coffee. It's about the stories we tell ourselves, the choices we make, and the world we want to create.
Well, that's quite a philosophical note to end on. But I think it's fitting, given the complexities we've explored today.
Indeed. The legacy of giants is rarely simple or straightforward. It's a tapestry woven from ambition, innovation, controversy, and a constant striving for relevance.
So, is Starbucks still the giant it once was?
Right.
Or is it losing its way? Has it become too big, too corporate, too caught up in controversy? It's a lot to ponder over your next cup of joe.
It really is. But ultimately, the answer to that question lies with each individual consumer.
Right.
What do you think? Is Starbucks a force for good in the world, or has it strayed from its original mission?
Let us know your thoughts.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, it's really amazing how much there is to unpack when it comes to a brand we encounter almost every day. Like, who knew there were so many layers to the Starbucks story?
Yeah, it's a testament to their impact, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whether you love them or hate them, you can't deny that Starbucks has left an indelible mark on, like, our culture.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating to see how a company that started with such a simple premise,
Right.
selling high-quality coffee beans,
Yep.
has become like this global behemoth, this cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
This giant.
But as we've seen, being a giant comes with its own set of challenges.
Right.
The higher you climb, the farther you can fall.
Yeah.
And Starbucks has definitely stumbled along the way.
They've had their fair share of controversies, that's for
yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
From environmental concerns to racial profiling to labor disputes, they've managed to offend just about everyone at some point.
But here's the thing. They've also shown a willingness to learn from their mistakes, to adapt to changing expectations,
Right.
and to try to do better.
Yeah.
Are they perfect? No.
No.
But are they making an effort?
Right.
It seems so.
Yeah, I guess that's what makes this whole conversation so interesting.
Right.
It's not a simple case of good versus evil.
Yeah, right.
Right versus wrong. It's a nuanced and constantly evolving story.
Exactly, and ultimately, it's up to each of us to decide how we feel about Starbucks, to weigh the good against the bad, and to make our own informed choices.
So what's the takeaway here? What can we learn from the legacy of this Java giant?
I think there are a few key lessons.
Okay.
First, no company is immune to scrutiny.
Right.
In today's hyper-connected world, every action, every decision is amplified and analyzed. Transparency and accountability are more important than ever.
Right. And second, consumers have power.
Yeah.
Our choices matter. Where we spend our money, what brands we support,
Yeah.
the conversations we have, it all adds up.
And third, complexity is inevitable. The world is a messy, complicated place.
Yeah.
And businesses are operating within that messy, complicated context.
Right.
There are no easy answers, no simple solutions. It's about navigating those complexities with integrity, empathy, and a commitment to continuous improvement.
Okay, so maybe Starbucks isn't the perfect corporate citizen. Maybe they've made some questionable decisions. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's the imperfections, the stumbles, the controversies that make them so human,
Right.
so relatable.
Perhaps. After all, we all make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
The important thing is to learn from them, to grow, and to strive to be better.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive into the world of Starbucks.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring the twists and turns of Starbucks' legacy.
So, to our listeners, we leave you with this final thought. The next time you find yourself standing in line at Starbucks, take a moment to consider,
Yeah.
like the complexities behind that cup of coffee. Think about the farmers who grew the beans, the baristas who crafted your drink, the corporate executives making decisions in boardrooms far away. And think about the impact, both positive and negative, that this global giant has had on the world.
And most importantly, think about your own role in this intricate web of relationships. Your choices matter. Your voice matters. Be an informed consumer. Ask questions. Demand better. And together, let's create a world where businesses operate with integrity, sustainability, and a deep respect for the planet and its people.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking,
Yes.
and maybe even a little bit inspiring. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating world of brands and businesses. Until next time, happy caffeinating.